Hey all you people on YouTube, my name is Josh Pan and I'm going to teach you how to make macarons today. I've never actually filmed a cooking video before, but I've been making macarons for a while now and people have been asking me how I make my macarons. And they aren't as simple as just a single recipe, so there's a lot of like hands-on, a lot of visual stuff. So I decided I'm just going to film a video and show you guys how I do it, and you can try it out and see how it works out. So without further ado, let's get started. So to begin, I'm going to show you what the ingredients are. So I start out here with 60 grams of almond meal, and here I have 120 grams of powdered sugar, and we need 2 eggs, and this is 40 grams of granulated sugar, and just a little pinch of salt. So to begin, I'm going to take this granulated sugar and I'm going to blend it so that it becomes more of like a superfine sugar kind of texture. Okay. And blend it up really well. I can shake it a little bit. Alright, so we're done with that. So we set that aside for a while. So now we want to separate our egg whites and yolks. This can be the tricky part because we don't want any yolks in our whites. We're only going to be using the whites in this recipe. So I'm just going to gently crack the egg open. And release the whites. Very gently because we don't want to get any of that yolk in there. And we'll pour the yolk into a different bowl. And the second egg. And I forgot to say, these are extra large eggs. So I like to let my egg white sit for a while. So what I did here was I poured the 2 egg whites into this mixer bowl, and I put the sugar that we blended, or processed, whatever you want to call it, earlier, into here too. And we're just going to let these 2 things sit together for a while. So I'm going to put it back in the machine here. Alright, so now we're ready to start dealing with the dry ingredients. I find my almond meal is often a little coarse, so what we're going to do is we're going to blend it up here in this food processor blender thingy. So we're going to pour all that almond meal into there, and I like to do it with the powdered sugar, so I'm going to pour all the powdered sugar into here as well. All of that in there. And we're just going to pulse it for a while. It's really thick in here and the almond has some oil, so it's gonna stick. So what we have to do, we have to like stop it once in a while and mix it up so that it continues blending, or else it'll get stuck and it'll just stop working. So I'm gonna pulse it on. Kind of mix it up a little bit, like loosen it up because it gets really tight in there and it wants to stop blending. Sometimes you can also just shake it up a little bit so that it gets back in there. So now that it's all blended up and probably very fine, we're going to take it out and put it into a bowl. So really just a medium mixing bowl is a good size. I want to get all of this in there so if it's stuck on the cap, you can kind of scrape it off. Don't want to waste that almond. That almond is pretty expensive. Yeah. Now that it's in a bowl, we can tell that it's all clumpy. I don't know if you can see it, but... But yeah, we can see that it's all clumped up, and if we want to put this directly into our eggs later, this is not going to work because it's too clumpy and it's going to get the little like bumps on the top of your macarons, and you don't want that because that's a serious issue. So we want to sift it. So here I have a sieve. I think that's what it's called. And I'm just going to pour that powder in there and sift it in. And at this point, almost forgot, don't forget to add your salt. It's just a little pinch of salt. So we're going to add that in there. And we're just gonna sift it in. And you can do this like once or twice. I find that once or twice is enough. Some people like to do it like 3 or 4 times because they find that's necessary. But I find that once or twice is good because, I mean, like the food processor took care of it and it's all like thin and nice, so I find that once or twice is quite enough. But if you want to do it more, you can, just in case. And make sure that salt is like well spread out in there. You don't want it to like all clump up in one place. Look, it's like snow! So now that we've got all the dry ingredients together, we're going to set this aside and deal with the wet ingredients. I got sugar on my hands. Okay, so this is my mixer. I have not named it yet, sadly. So we have the sugar and the eggs sitting in there, so it's definitely at room temperature now. So for this, because we're whipping the eggs, we want to use the whisk attachment. And we want to get it to be all really fluffy. We want to get it to stiff peaks, but dry stiff peaks, which is like beyond normal stiff peaks. So we're just going to whip it until it becomes stiff and dry. And it's hard to say how long that takes. It really depends. So I'll show you the consistency when it's done. But I'm going to put it aside. I'm going to whip it on high speed. And yeah. Oh, make sure your whisk is perfectly clean and dry. We don't want to get any oil or water into there. So while that whips, or before it whips, you can prepare this, but we're going to prepare a piping bag because to get those like perfectly even little circles, we need to use a piping bag. So here I have a tip. I don't actually know what tip this is. I think it's a Fat Daddy-O tip. But it's a round tip. I don't know if you can see. It's a round tip and it's a big tip, so I'm just gonna put this in here. This is a reusable piping bag. And because I don't know how this tip works, it's kind of a weird tip, I'm gonna tie it on with a rubber band. So we want to stick this in a really big cup so that when we put our mixture in it, it won't like, you know, like ooze out or something. So here I have actually a really big pitcher. I'm just gonna put this bag right here and fold it over the top, just like that. The mixture should be thick enough that it won't ooze out the tip, but if you want, you can like twist the tip a little bit so it doesn't come out. But yeah, so we're just gonna have it like this. Let's see, just like this, so that we can stick the mixture in there and then in there. So now we're gonna set this aside and we're gonna prepare our baking pan. So here I have 2 cookie sheets. They're, I don't know what size they are. But we're going to cover them with parchment paper. You want to get it so that it's flat. If it's not sticking, like this, I don't know, this is too big, so I'm going to cut it down, but it's not going to stick down. So what I'm going to do is, once our mixture is done and we mix in all the almond and stuff, we can just put like a little dab of mixture on the corners and put the parchment paper over it and kind of smear it in there so that it stays, so that in the oven or whatever, it doesn't move around. It doesn't have to be perfectly even because, I mean, it really doesn't matter. It's just parchment paper. I mean, if you have OCD like me, having like curvy lines like this really bothers me, but whatever. I learned to deal with it. So once it's pretty much beaten up, if you want to add color or flavoring like extracts, this is where you put it in, and you continue mixing it until it's well blended. If you want to use dry flavoring like matcha green tea or cocoa powder, then you put it with your dry ingredients and make sure to have sifted that in there too. Some of these flavors kind of affect other things like baking time or like you know, like liquid or wet to dry ratios. So if I have time and if you like this video, maybe I'll make some more to show you how I make the other flavors. It's pretty much the same, it's just sometimes you have to like compensate a little bit. But so this is done, and for me, my first indicator that it's done is when you lift it up, it doesn't fall out. And it's at dry peaks, which is basically if you take your whisk and you lift it out and you turn it over, it'll like be a perfectly straight, like a little pin, or not perfectly straight, but like a little pin, and it'll stand up straight. It's not gonna curve down, because if it curves down, then it's soft peak, and it's not enough. And we want to get it beyond dry peaks, and this is definitely beyond dry peaks. This is very dry, and it's like marshmallowy in texture, so it's kind of, when we take it out of here, it's gonna like bounce around and stuff. See how it's like nice and dry, and it's very thick, so it's not gonna like just drip out or anything. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna use a spatula. You can see this, and we're gonna cut it out. And it should kind of feel almost like a marshmallow, like it'll bounce around down there, and yeah. Let me take this off, it'll make it easier. Ah, it's so sticky. Alright, so now we're gonna take our almond mixture and we're gonna sift it into our egg mixture. Sift. So now it's all sifted in. I'm afraid to turn it too much, so I'm not gonna show you. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna fold it in now. And you wanna be really careful because you don't wanna overfold and you don't wanna underfold. This is probably the most difficult step because you wanna get it to the perfect consistency. If it's too liquidy, you fold it too much, it's gonna spread out and it's gonna become really flat. And if you don't fold it enough, chances are your macaron's gonna crack because it's too airy on the inside. So I find that for this recipe, you fold it about at least 30 times. It takes at least 30 folds, but usually it'll take more. So this is the most difficult part, as I said. It takes a lot of experience, or not a lot of experience, but you need to really know what you're looking for. So basically, we have it here. You can see the powder on top and the egg underneath. And we're just gonna very gently fold. You don't wanna move it around too much. You don't wanna overfold because that could be bad. So basically, you scrape around the edge and you flatten it down. And that's the way I do it. Some people have other methods where you like cut in the middle or whatever. But I usually count to 30 folds and see where that takes me. And if I need to fold some more, then I will. But you want to scrape the edges too, because you want to get the bottom and everything so that it's all mixed in and it's not just like a little bit. And if you need to, you can also like, you know, along the edge to like get your spatula nice and clean. So we're at 30 folds right now, and this is not quite there yet. You can see it's really smooth. I don't know if you can see that. It's really smooth now, but and what you're looking for is when you ribbon it, it's gonna ribbon very cleanly downwards. But right now, see, you can see it's kind of clumping, so I'm gonna mix it in a little more. And another thing, you don't want to overmix, and you can tell it's overmixed when you like scoop it up, you put it back in, and it like refills back into the bowl, to fill the shape of the bowl. You want it to kind of only half, like, you know, like kind of like slowly ooze downward, but like still kind of be a little clump. And here we can see it's pretty much ready. It's not a very smooth ribboning, but this'll do. And you can see that the mixture is very smooth. There aren't really like clumps or like things, or like little like bumps on top or anything. So this is pretty much ready. So now we're going to take that pitcher that we had set up, and we're going to scoop it into this little pitcher. Right. So you don't want to move it again too much, because then you might cause it to overmix. You just want to like very gently scoop it in. And it's nice to have it on this pitcher, see, so you can like scrape it down on the edge of the pitcher instead of having to like dump it in. So once we have that all in the pitcher, we're going to take some of that residual stuff in there. And as I said before, just kind of dab it on the edges of the, oh, you can't see, of the baking sheet. Just kind of dabbing it on the edges. Dabbing a bit on the edges. You don't want to dab too much because actually having that down there affects the baking of the macarons on top of the sheet. But just get a little on there so that the parchment paper sticks, and then just rub the parchment paper. So yeah, our cookie sheets are now ready. You can see that the parchment paper sticks on pretty nicely. We just put a little bit of that macaron stuff, macaron mixture, I don't know what it's called, macaron batter, I don't know. But put a little bit on the corners and kind of rubbed it in so that it's nice and flat. And it sticks on nicely, just like that. If you have macaron baking mats, even better, but I don't, so. We're gonna take this piping bag and hold it at the edge. I'm gonna close this, squeeze it, and twist so that all of the batter is up here. So the piping is actually quite simple. It's hard to get it perfectly even, but as long as we have it relatively even, it's fine. So we're just gonna kind of at an angle, pipe a little bulb and just pinch it up. See, look, it's at an angle, like a 45-degree angle. Just gonna pipe until it's the right size and pinch it upward. You want to pinch it upward so that you don't get like a tail coming from it. Let me show you. If you get like this, see, that's like, I don't know if you can see actually. Yeah, you don't want to get that. So we get that, we have to deal with that later. So we, the size really doesn't, right now I'm kind of piping out like quarter sizes. So the size of a typical quarter. And we're not gonna deal with like how flat, or we want them to kind of be like bulging like this. And you can do this pretty quickly. Again, try to get them as even as possible, but if that's not possible, that's fairly alright. Actually, these are a little bit larger than quarter size now. So I kind of made them a little bit big this time, a little bigger than I usually do, but you get the idea. Just pipe it out. Usually I can cover like 2 cookie sheets, and I'm actually already almost out, and I've covered 1 cookie sheet. So you just want to space them out so that they don't touch, and leave some space because they're going to flatten out. We want them to flatten out some more later, so I'll show you how to do that. But leave some space so that they can expand outward a little bit. So the problem with these right now is that there's a lot of air inside of them, and when the air's inside and it wants to come out, it's gonna cause the macarons to crack, like cookies. Like a lot of cookies, you get them, they're cracked on the surface. That's what happens because there's air inside and it's coming out. So we want to kind of get rid of some of that air, and we basically do that by pounding it against the counter. So you just do that. It really depends. Usually I do it around like 10 to 20 times if it's really thick. Yeah, I mean, it really depends on you. Your mixture. It really depends on your mixture. So as long as you think it's ready, again, this kind of takes experience. It takes, hands-on trying it out. So when you think you're ready, I mean, it doesn't have to be the 10 to 20 times that I do. It really depends. So there we have it. They're all nice and flat now. You don't want them too flat either, because if they're too flat, they're gonna turn out really thin and flat. So you just want to get them to a right size, like if you've eaten a macaron before, which I hope you have, but you can kind of see the shape of the macaron. That's about the shape you want to get it at. And these are not perfectly circular, so I'm a little embarrassed to show you. You can see there, maybe you'll see that some of these have little air bubbles on them. Really, that doesn't matter, but if it bothers you, you can poke it out with like a toothpick or a pick or like a needle or something. Those are basically trapped right under the surface, so they're not going to affect it that much. But they do affect the surface. It'll look a little bumpy, but that doesn't really matter. Now we're gonna do a very important step. This is the easiest, but probably again one of the most important steps. We leave it on the counter for like 20 to 30 minutes. 30 minutes preferably, at least 30 minutes. More is fine too. Basically what needs to happen is we need to have it shell. And what I mean by shell is, this is like very thick and liquidy, so we kind of want the surface to dry out so that when we bake it, it stays together. Like some cookies, the surface isn't dry, and that's kind of what causes cracking. If you don't let it dry, it's probably gonna crack. It's gonna do weird stuff. I haven't tried that before, so I don't know exactly what it does. You can research it. There are plenty of websites to talk about that. But yeah, so we're just gonna leave it out for like 30 minutes and preheat the oven. I tend to use the oven somewhere between 300 and 305 degrees Fahrenheit. It really depends, again, on environment, like the humidity of the room, your personal oven. You can use actually an oven thermometer and stick it in there so you know exactly what temperature it is. But it really depends, like on your environment, on your macarons, on everything. So I suggest you try using 300 to 305, somewhere in there. But you may need to change it depending on what happens. So we're gonna go ahead and preheat the oven to 300 to 305, and this is gonna just stay on the counter for like a good 30 minutes or so. Right, so I'll see you back in 30 minutes. So now our oven's ready and our macarons are dry and ready to be put in. So I'm gonna go ahead and put them in. Basically, some people say that the top and bottom rack and stuff affects how it bakes. I just use my convection settings, and I always use 2 layers and put both layers in at the same time, and it always works. So I don't know, I mean, again, you can try it out yourself and see how it works, but for me, my oven always works out fine, so I put them in about evenly spaced, so like 1/3 of the way through the oven and another third, and bake them for 20 minutes. Again, this is one of those things that you have to try out for yourselves, so you have to check. Basically, I bake them until, some people say until it doesn't stick, but I find that that makes the macaron too hard, so I wait until 20 minutes and it should like stick a little bit, but not excessively. And then once you take it out, because the macaron's still hot, it's gonna continue baking on the inside, so it'll stop sticking, and I think that makes the perfect texture. So for me, that's about 20 minutes. For some flavors, I've also done 21, 22, 23, maybe even sometimes 25 minutes, I don't remember. And I've also done like 18, depending on the size again, and depending on your oven, depending on everything. So try it out yourself. I'd say set your oven for like 18 or something first and check it. You don't want to check it too early because it deflates if you open your oven, but yeah, so like try it out, check it. When it's ready, when you think it's ready, you can just pop it out. It should have the foot and everything, so if it doesn't have the foot, then you probably have to try again. It should form the foot, so yeah, I'm just gonna pop this in the oven now, and I'll see you in 20 minutes. So I just pulled these out of the oven, so they're really hot. I'm just gonna give you, this is what it looks like, really pretty. But so right now, they're still sticking just a bit to the plate, which is okay, because it's still hot, it's still going to continue to cook, and it'll stop sticking when it's fully cooked, and by that time, for me, I think it'll be the perfect consistency. So just going to let this cool completely before we can fill it. You don't want to fill it while it's still hot because it can melt the filling, could like hurt the cookie, all this stuff. So let me give you a closer look. So you can see the feet around the edges over there. It's really pretty. Sometimes they like sink down a little more, sometimes they don't. It really depends on like everything, like how well you mixed it, how much you mixed it, how stiff your peaks were. it could depend on everything. Sometimes they'll like deflate downwards and these will spread out more. Sometimes they'll be perfectly like straight. Sorry, these are not like perfectly even. So yeah, you can tell that these are not perfectly circular. When you pipe it, just be careful, try to make them circular. These are not the best. There are 2 little bubbles on this one. Forgot to poke those out. So, yeah, I mean, basically, this is what they're supposed to look like. These are maybe a little bit bigger than the ones I usually make. But, it's fine. They look really good. So, I mean, the sizing and shape, of course, is a little bit off, but we're just gonna let it completely cool now, and we'll fill them when they are completely cool. Hello again. So as you can see, it is now a different day. I'm wearing different clothes, I'm in a different place. Basically, last time it started getting late, so I went to bed and didn't get to finish filming my video. But that was basically it. That's how I make my macarons. For the filling, you can use chocolate ganache, you can use fruit jams, buttercream, cream cheese frosting, basically anything you like. I'm not going to put that in this video just because this video is already plenty long. But if you like it, maybe in the future I can make some other videos showing you how I make my different flavors or my different fillings. But yeah, for the filling, just put it in a piping bag, pipe it onto your cookie, sandwich your cookies together, and there you have it, your full cookie. So if this video was helpful, or if you like this video, or if you just like me, thank you very much. Please like my video, and don't forget to subscribe. So, I guess that's it. I'll see y'all next time.